Well,
Wow.
I feel like we've just walked into a rave or just walked out of a rave. That's a good start to the show.
What a great soundtrack, and a fantastic. I mean, the design work on that and everything is absolutely brilliant. I love that music as well. It's almost like they say walking into a club night somewhere down on the Sunset Strip in Ibiza or something, Al. It's just so brilliant what the team put together. Thank you so much to the whole team for putting that intro together. Brilliant stuff. And if you are keen to join us here on the Check It Out show, this is our 10th episode, I believe, isn't it, Al? 10 episodes now.
I believe so, yeah. I can't believe how quickly it's gone.
Well, if you're keen to join us, get yourself over to netsupportsoftware.com/showcase, and you can join us on the show too. So what's been happening in Al's land in the last little while, Al?
Oh, it's been, it's always busy in NetSupport world, that's for sure. We've been busy cranking out more and more product updates, lots of bits and pieces happening, planning our kind of phased return into some sense of normality in the workspace. I've been very fortunate to be guest on all sorts of different radio shows and podcasts, talking about my latest book and what's been happening in the world. And I suppose more than anything, it's finally for most of the team in education, it's been we've reached that checkpoint where everyone can just pause and start to actually have time to reflect. So half of me, like, great, we can actually talk a little bit about lessons learned, things we want to think about. And then the other half, to be honest, is right now is not the time to be saying, hey, shall we reflect on what happened last term? I'm really keen that everyone gets a chance just to clear the brain, relax, focus on well-being, get themselves up and sorted again. So, but yeah, as always, a busy but enjoyable time. There's always lessons to be learned, so all positive. Now, I know you've had a tough few weeks, so I'm really chuffed that you're back on the show. So how are you doing, Mark?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, Al. Things have been a bit difficult, as you know, the last sort of month. I went into hospital on the 5th of July for some surgery. I'm still not back fighting fit, but 6 out of 10, let's call it. And I'm just so pleased to be able to sort of actually to sit in a chair and be able to come and join you on the show this evening. I'm really pleased. Like I messaged you earlier, wild horses wouldn't have stopped me from coming and joining in on the show this evening. So I'm really pleased to be back on the show and hopefully back firing on all cylinders in a few more weeks. Fingers crossed.
Good. Well, it's always a pleasure to be doing this together, matey. That's what part of the fun is about, teamwork and collaboration. And talking of teamwork, we always have some familiar faces join us at the start of the Check It Out show. So a shout out to Dave and Becky, who are joining us from Dogslop Infants, very, very loyal supporters of everything we try and do and promoting all that's good in education. Another shout out to George, who I know tunes in and listens to our monthly shows. And what's lovely is we get a really nice broad mix of listeners on the night, but we absolutely see that the Check It Out show is something that runs and runs for the weeks following. And by the time we get to the next show, we've normally accumulated 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 views of the show. And that's important because we're doing this to give a voice to all of our guests. So the more people that check it out, as we suggest on the show name, or more importantly, just retweet, share with their peers, then the broader voice we give for all these amazing solutions and services, which hopefully, puts the right tools in the hands of people where it can have benefit and impact. So yeah, all very positive. And we've got another exciting one, haven't we, tonight, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. Some fantastic guests, as always, lined up to come and share on this evening's show. And if you are watching live or if you're watching post the live show, it's always lovely for Al and I and for the companies to sort of hear about how they've learned about what's been going on and where you've learned about these different products and services. So if there is something tonight that you hear about and learn about that resonates, then like Arc Maths, a retrieval app that was on the show a little while back, I've been hearing lots of great stories about that app post then joining us on the show. So if you are inspired or want to go and check out something following the show, please do let us know, because it's really, really nice for us to know that the show is actually being we see the numbers, but out of most things in life, it's the stories which make it much more rich for us and for those people who come on the show and share with us. So please do get in touch, let us know what you think, what your thoughts are. If you've got any ideas for how you might improve the show as well, we're always open to new ideas as well. So please do get in touch. We've got some fantastic solutions, like you say, Al, lined up to join us this evening. Some people have been on the show before, and they're updating us on some new opportunities. We've got some old friends who are joining us for the first time as well, and that sort of lines us up quite nicely, actually, on that topic, Al, for our very, very first guest. But I'm mindful that if we jump across to our first guest, we're ahead of schedule, but that might make a nice change for us to actually be ahead of the schedule for once, Al. So, given that I mentioned our friend who's joining us on our first slot this evening, shall we bring our first guest in now? Should we do that?
We should. It's rather spooky, actually, because having not seen our first guest in face-to-face for 18 months, we bumped into each other last week at the Bet Awards down in London. So it's kind of great. You get to see each other face-to-face, and then, lo and behold, we're back virtual again. But I can't think of a better person to come and kick off tonight's discussion. So absolutely. Shall we bring our first guest in then? Which is
absolutely.
Martin Bailey from Animate to Educate.
Hi, Al. Hi, Mark. Lovely to see you again. Thanks for the opportunity to be on tonight.
Welcome, Martin. How are you doing?
Not too bad at all. As I was saying, Bet Awards was lovely last week. It was, that chance to travel outside the Northeast for the first time in 18 months, but more importantly, to, catch up with some good friends like Al and just have that bit of social interaction again and, find out about a few new things that are up and coming in the ed tech world. The Bet Awards, a few companies rewarded that I knew well, and a few things that I'll certainly be looking out for a little bit more that came on the radar for the first time last week.
Brilliant stuff. Well, I mean, I've worked with you in a number of guises in a number of places and spaces over the years, so I know your work and your impact and what you do in supporting schools, and all the while still being a classroom teacher as well, Martin. But for those who don't know, can you share a little bit about what Animate to Educate actually is, please?
Yeah, so as you said, first and foremost, I am still a primary school teacher myself. I have been for 21 years now in various schools in the northeast of England. So I combine the role of digital enrichment leader at Lanchester EP Primary School in County Durham, where I get the chance to sort of teach computing from early years right through to year 6 with that of running Animate Educate. So I suppose I always say to people, it's about providing those computing services a bit above and beyond what is normally happening in schools. So whether that be animation, green screen, augmented reality, virtual reality, whatever it might be, I'm trying to do those things that's a little bit more, whether it's maybe sort of using the equipment that schools don't have at their disposal, or whether it's, the expertise that sort of staff might not have sort of firsthand. So it's a mixture of staff training, people workshops, and I go under the banner of like sort of bringing the curriculum to life. So schools might contact me and they might sort of talk about a particular area of computing, whether it be computer programming, online safety, or quite often schools will say, we're doing space in year 5, we're doing the Romans in year 3, can you provide a half day, a day's workshop sort of around that? And then I'll liaise with the schools sort of around, different ideas of what we could do, sort of linked to that different topic. So, quite often it's those sort of pupil workshops certainly was what sort of Animate Educate sort of first started as.
Martin, I was going to ask you, I mean, you've kind of touched in a way on what makes your what you do different in terms of the breadth and taking it to the next level. Many of us will know that, yourself and Lanchester EP are a really forward-thinking school and really been, pushing the envelope in many regards. What would you kind of say are the key things that you do that you would kind of hang your hat on as being different and really pushing things?
I think you've touched on the main thing there, Al. It's that everything I do is things that have been tried and tested already in schools. I'm not sort of just, sort of offering something that I think will work in school. I sort of in many ways, Lanchester EP becomes my guinea pig a little bit, that I get the chance to, try out sort of new apps, new ideas that I've got sort of with my pupils. And in terms of what I would offer then other schools are things that I've already sort of done with my own pupils. I know they work. I've had the chance to try them out there. So 100% that's the biggest thing that I sort of offer.
Just to reinforce your credentials as well, Martin, I mean, you've got 21 years experience in the classroom as well, but you also work at Durham University, is that right?
I do, yeah. The last couple of years I've sort of become a lecturer at Durham University, so I provide the computing element of the course to BA and PGCE students. So that's been something sort of really nice over the last couple of years. And obviously 2 years ago it was very much face-to-face sort of sessions, and then like a lot of things it's been sort of delivered virtually over this last sort of 12 months. And again, that's been something I've helped schools with a lot sort of over the last 12 months is, help them sort of adapt and to the pressures of remote learning and everything else that you might sort of need to change with regards to policies and practices over these last sort of 12 to 18 months.
So in terms of the things that you offer, Martin, for schools away from Manchester. Do you have a geographical area of focus? Do you do online training as well?
Yeah, I work with schools all over the world, certainly in non-COVID times. Like in terms of the UK, I've had sort of two rates. So we've got my local rate as being within 50 miles of Gateshead NE10, where I live. And then above and beyond that, I have a national rate, which is like £100 more per half day or full day. That's to cover a night in a hotel, petrol costs, whatever it might be. So I don't go by numbers of miles, anything like that. It's simply local rate and national rate is the two things. And I suppose in terms of, one of the big things I offer to schools sort of now is often around sort of creating bespoke curriculums. That's something that schools have asked for a lot, sort of, maybe they're revisiting sort of what they're doing sort of post 2014 and that, and that's been probably one of the big services. So yes, I enjoy the fun workshops and everything else, but one of the things where I do often sort of travel around the UK and beyond is that sort of curriculum planning side of things.
I remember doing a first event I did with you, Martin, was Tech on the Cline. So you were also organising across the region that additional kind of support.
Yeah, I certainly hope as things settle down a little bit more, like I certainly have got hopes to sort of get back into doing the conferences again. So, loosely maybe back end of 2022, I'm hoping that Tech on the Tyne and Talk on the Tyne can be back again, and it'll be sort of lovely to have you both involved again, sort of when those events happen.
I'm looking forward to another Tech that, to be honest. I had visions of being Gary Barlow, you see, but it all went the wrong way.
It did. We're doing that in the Midlands as well. So yeah, you never know. Maybe like Tech that on tour or something like that. I certainly, like all of us, I just sort of can't wait to those times when we can start planning like that again. It'd be lovely to sort of to interact with people again in a whole variety of different ways.
Brilliant stuff, Martin. Thank you so much. So if people get in touch and find out, obviously they can see your Twitter handle there, Animate to Educate. Where do people go to find out more? Have you got a website where people can contact you through, Martin?
Website, www.animateeducate.co.uk. Got a Facebook page, LinkedIn as well. I'm not young and trendy enough for Instagram, but Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn or website easy enough to find.
Brilliant. And most importantly, Martin, one of the nicest guys in the space, always offering support and guidance. Enjoy a few weeks of digital detox and recharging the batteries. I will do. Take care, both of you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Cheers, Martin. Nice to see you.
Good night now.
Take care.
Cheers, thanks.
Top man, Martin, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a really, really lovely chap. On top of that as well, the stuff he shares is brilliant. I've had the fortune of presenting alongside him in many places and spaces over the years, and he never fails to inspire me with his teaching and learning first, but engaging, relevant, fun, inspiring uses of technology to support teaching and learning and the computing curriculum as well. Really great guy, great teacher, and fab to sort of kick the show off with him as well this evening. Brilliant.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Anderson, we are running so far almost on schedule, which is frankly a miracle. But let's embrace the miracle. Who do we have next joining us?
We have Hannah from Satchel joining us now. Satchel 1, Hannah Chappell, I believe it is.
Hello.
So welcome, Hannah. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm marvellous, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Thank you very much. So you're from Satchel. That's clearly a school-based reference. What's Satchel all about?
So Satchel is the UK's #1 learning platform, and we're used by 1 in 3 schools in the UK, secondary schools predominantly. And we are designed for use by the entire school community. So Satchel 1 supports staff, students, and parents on their journey throughout education. So schools can choose from our range of award-winning apps to create a learning platform that's bespoke to their individual needs. So it's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. Schools can choose from classroom management apps that support schools with seating, attendance, and timetables, all the way through to our behaviour management suite, which allows schools to deal with like student welfare, detentions, and positive or negative behaviour. So there's a whole host of things on offer. So since 2017, we've been really dedicated to providing schools with software that enhances the learning process. We want it to save teachers time and engage parents in that learning process as well. We want to ensure that schools have all of the tools that they need to create the very best possible learning environment for students. So very recently, what we've been focusing on is supporting millions of customers through remote learning. We wanted to give them a really meaningful remote learning experience during the school closures. Very excited about this. We have, during that time, become Microsoft partners and Google for Education partners as well. So we can continue to provide really powerful integrations through Google and Microsoft too. So that's Satchel in a nutshell.
That's quite a big nutshell. There's lots covered there.
It's quite a large nutshell, isn't it? Yeah.
But opportunity comes from all these challenges, and you're right. There is exciting times in terms of the role tech plays. So you've touched on the remote learning and about communication, particularly back to parents and home. Where would you sort of show the kind of the USPs, the differentiators in your solution to others that schools might have come across?
Yeah, I think one of the key things is that Satchel was founded by a former assistant head. So our CEO, Namish Gohil, he was an assistant head in a secondary school, and he saw the problems firsthand. He wanted to solve the problems that he was dealing with while he was teaching. And I think that continues to kind of set us apart from other platforms in the industry. So when we're building the platform, we're always looking at the end user and bearing them in mind, constantly listening to our teachers and wanting to create a software that really serves them in their legitimate needs. And I think that that's why we continue to be the teacher's number one choice, even after a decade. And again, very exciting. Last week, we were a winner at BET 2021. So we won the whole school aid for teaching, learning and assessments. That was so exciting. And so it's still very much like riding high of that success, which is nice. And I wasn't able to be there, unfortunately, but we had some of my lovely colleagues that went. I think also another thing that is a bit more unique to us is we were the first of our kind to offer a customizable learning platform. So as I said, schools can choose from the range of apps that we have, and we've got some premium features as well. So that allows people to create a learning platform that is quite bespoke and suits their needs. So it means that schools get to really prioritize what's important to them, and it keeps the cost down as well, because they're not having to have, all in sundry, all of the apps that they might not get to use. It is very customizable. And we have great support, great service as well. So we have 99.99% platform uptime, average of 91% customer satisfaction for support, and 99% trainer satisfaction score as well. So yes, I think they're pretty good differentiators, I would hope.
I've got to say, Hannah, that was really a really good summary, but we didn't win at the BET Awards last week, so we're going to have to edit and cut that whole section out.
That's fine, I understand. If we don't all win, nobody wins.
I'll let Mark ask a more sensible question.
Just jumping in, I mean, you've covered an awful lot there that would sort of fall in with the final question, Hannah, which is how does the sort of solution best support and serve your audience? You covered a load of things there, but are there any other things you think which are particularly unique, or that you feel that the Satchel platform and team do particularly well, which sort of again set you out apart from your rivals and really best help the schools that you work with?
Yeah, I think, we've created software that solves a real problem. It saves teachers a huge amount of time, really streamlines the processes that they're usually doing anyway. So it enhances the skill set that teachers have. And with those integrations with Google and Microsoft as well, it means that teachers save the time and they get to use it on things that really matter during school. It's quite an inclusive learning platform, so it really fosters a sense of school community. All the stakeholders are involved with push notifications to parents and students. And we support the whole child because we have behaviour, we have all of the welfare note, all sorts of good stuff. It means that we support the whole child rather than just looking at the academic side of things.
Good job. And of course, the important bit we always like to ask is, if people would like to find out more, get in touch with you at Satchel, where should they head to, Hannah?
Well, that's a great question. They should head to www.teamsatchel.com. We have our Twitter handle underneath as well. Dare I try and push our final special offer in the seconds that I have left? You said you were going ahead of time, and that was a dangerous thing to say, because we have a special offer, which is 20% off our behaviour management suite at the moment. If you want to head to our website, you'll be able to claim that offer. It's a special end-of-term offer, and it allows you to access our behaviour management suite, which includes behaviour, detentions, referred incidents, and sanctions. So go to the website, claim that offer, and be prepared for the new academic year.
Fantastic. I'm getting a few flashbacks. You said detentions and sanctions, just reflecting on my childhood, but nonetheless, we'll move on.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for joining us, Hannah. Really good stuff.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Cheers.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you. Bye.
Nice to meet you. Bye. Fantastic stuff, Al. We're ripping through it, and we are on time pretty much. So, Al, who's up next on the Check It Out show this evening?
Next guest this evening is John Smedley from Teach Active. John,
Okay,
good evening.
Welcome, John.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Al. Good evening. Thanks for having me on. Are you both well?
Very well, thank you.
Not too bad, thank you. Good to have you on.
But yeah, great to be on. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. So, John, you're joining us this evening from Teach Active. Could you share with us a little bit about what Teach Active actually is for our audience, please?
Okay, yeah, I'd love to. So, Teach Active, it's an online resource that provides schools and teachers with lesson plans and resources on how to deliver the English and the maths primary curriculum, but through physical activity. So through getting children, it may be up and about and kind of in the classroom, because that's the only space that we've got, and bums off seats, non-sedentary behaviour, to perhaps taking learning down to the sports hall, or even if it's going to be nice and sunny weather, just looking outside and taking learning outside as well. And just really supporting schools in making the school day more active, but in a real purposeful way.
And just linking on to that, John, let me assume that some listening perhaps wouldn't immediately draw the correlation. How does that have, from your experience, a positive impact in terms of outcomes and acquisition of learning for children?
Okay, so and like the previous guest mentioned, it's the credibility factors. I was a peer advisor, I was a teacher for 18 years, I was a deputy head, and very much this was about me trying to build children's confidence and attitudes towards these subjects. But very much we want to try and get children more active because, well, we know they're too sedentary. Children aren't doing the recommended amount of physical activity, but we know it's about attitudes. They love it, it's fun, it's enjoyable, but it's also supporting attainment as well. Of course, that's really important in the world that we live in, the pressures that we're under. And then all of those wider benefits, which I think have really become clear over the last 12 months in particular, of how physical activity can benefit to our well-being, our social skills, teamwork, our self-esteem and confidence. So certainly, I mean, I could give you a list as long as my arm, but they're the main four that I come up with. We're going to get children active, they're going to really enjoy it and have a smile on their face and have that love of learning. They're going to attain better, and actually there's so many wider benefits to active learning as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Great stuff, John. Thank you very much for that. There are other solutions out there which provide resources around primary English and maths curriculum. So what sets you apart from the others? I mean, you've alluded to some of those there with the sort of active learning and so forth and so on, but are there any other sort of aspects that set you apart from your competition?
Yeah, I mean, it's very much, as we've mentioned there, it's that active learning. We're not a scheme of work, so we can sit alongside and complement anything that a school is already doing. But yeah, we're very much about that active learning. I think in terms of that is also that it's written by teachers, it's written by maths and English experts. And I think that's really important. It's mapped to the primary curriculum. It covers every single objective. It goes from foundation stage to year 6, which makes it, as teachers, we want an idiot's guide, don't we? We're not idiots, but we want that because it's nice and simple to use. The wealth of plans, we've got 3,500 plans now. We started off with a file when I was teaching of 80, and it had such an impact in schools around the Wirral where I taught. Actually, now we're working with over 1,000 schools in the UK. We've been going for 6 years. We've won multiple awards. I won't mention the BET award that we won last year because I've just heard that we're not allowed, and you'll have to edit that out. And I think mainly it's happy customers as well. We're part of the government parliamentary review. We've been submitted to the DFE. But what I love is the feedback of teachers and head teachers saying, we're on the shop floor, our children love this, it's really helping attainment. And that's what I set out to do that when I left my job, and that's what I wanted to do, spread those wider benefits.
Great.
Really good job. Our last question we normally ask is about how it best serves your audience or your learners. Obviously, you've covered a lot of that. In our last 60 seconds, what would you like to kind of summarize as the key things that should encourage any teachers listening to find out more from you?
Yeah, I'd say that it's very easy to use. I think a lot of people, if we're going to a school now and saying I've got something new to introduce, the first thing that I always say at the start of a staff meeting is, I'm going to make your life easier, not harder, because I know they're all looking at me thinking, what's this guy going to get us to do? And, you know, teachers work ridiculously hard to make learning fun, and also to help children to be able to retain and recall that information and have that love of learning. And you know, I believe in working with lots of schools, and the active learning, whether it's teach active or not, but active learning can really benefit you in doing that. So give it a go. And I think I'm allowed to mention the website here with 9 seconds. So visit us at www.teachactive.org. You can set up a one-to-one demo with me. You can have a free trial and have a go with your children, and let me know if they enjoy the plans, because I'm sure they will.
Okay.
Great stuff. Thank you ever so much, John. Thank you.
Lovely to meet you both. Have a nice evening, guys. Take care.
Yeah, you too, John. Cheers. Best of luck.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Everybody active and engaged, as well as focusing on those core skills, has got to be a good thing in my book.
Yeah, and I remember seeing and reading lots of research a few years back now, but the actual impact of being up and actually active whilst you're undertaking different learning activities, the extra oxygen in your brain, what have you, apparently makes it much easier for you to take on board new learning and all these different things as well. So there's lots that makes that a really compelling offer for linking into those two very, very important subjects, particularly in every phase, to be honest, isn't it? English and maths, but even more so when they're doing a sort of foundation type learning in those two core subject areas. So brilliant stuff. Listen, Al, our next guest, his name's Bal Bingsley, is it? Is our next guest? Is that who we got on next?
That was the intention, to be in disguise, but I think we've revised it just to pure Al.
Oh, just Al Kingsley. Did you want to go off stage for a quick costume change, or do you want to put a hat on? Or there we go. Welcome to the show, Al. How are you this evening?
I'm very well, Mark. Lovely to be here and lovely to see you.
Great stuff, and it's lovely to have you here too. Now, listen, it should come as no surprise to anybody joining us this evening that Al has recently written a book. He's even gone out and had mugs made. Are you ready for a snap moment? Have you got one by you by any chance? There you go. Look, see. Now, as somebody who's read the book and not written a theme tune, that's something completely different. What is your book all about, Al?
Well, obviously, I failed at the first hurdle, which was calling it a secret, because that's already not the case. But that's all part of the kind of little play on words that I was doing for the book. The truth of it is, 30 years in the edtech space, lots has changed, and more importantly, the last couple of years, we've seen a real acceleration in terms of the discussion and narrative about edtech and the use of technology where appropriate in a positive way. And it's something, I mean, Mark, you've embraced for decades, and you and I have done many an event and resource and shows together talking about the effective use of technology and how you plan around it. And one of the first things that always strikes me is that for everybody that jumps into the conversation and embraces edtech, there's another 3 or 4 that look at and hear those words and think, that's not my area, that's not my place to get involved in, when of course the role and effective use of technology in schools is everybody's business. So I didn't want to try and create some kind of research document, probably wouldn't have been capable of it, frankly, but what I wanted to do was write something that was accessible. Anybody could get a good understanding of what we mean by edtech, a bit of a narrative and journey about where edtech has started, some of the evolutionary processes that we see, and more importantly, just kind of shape the right questions to be asking. And it's something you and I are strong advocates on. I'm not a fan of providing a prescriptive list of answers, because with every school and every teacher and class being different and having a different place on that journey, that's not the way that you help. Where you help is to give people suggestions and ideas of things to think about and the questions to ask to find out what best fits. And then the other thing, which is at the heart of all the things that we certainly do, and it's something that I've tried to do for many, many years, is I'm all about giving people a voice. And of course, we're doing that tonight, and we do that at shows, and we do it in all sorts of ways at NetSupport. But I also feel that if you have views, if you want to share best practice and ideas and narratives, the best way to do that is to bring lots of voices together. it's reassuring, but it also means you have got that breadth of opinion. So the book also includes words of wisdom and advice from many trusted peers. And I've got a lot of trusted peers and people online that I would call on for advice and guidance. So it really is a mix of all the different things you might be able to pick up from, dare I say, Googling in all sorts of different places, but actually trying to bring it together into one resource.
Thank you, Al. I mean, I found it to be a really interesting read. I learned lots of stuff, which is and I don't want to blow me on trumpet, but I know a fair bit about technology and education. But I learned loads from reading it, and there were two things that I particularly liked about it. One is that it covers support for people who are working in the edtech space, but also provides. And you talk about the whole teacher confidence competence thing from Mandanash and Klein in the book as well, don't you? But it also provides that sort of cushion for those school leaders, middle leaders, teachers who are not really as confident as they might be with technology, and goes through the glossary of terms, all those different things that are in there are so useful. You mentioned a prescriptive list of answers. But what is in there, which is really useful again, I think, is the second thing this is the prescriptive lists of questions, things to ask, things to help give you those checks and balances to help you sort of navigate what can be quite often quite murky waters when there are so many different solutions, so many different opportunities to invest in very similar products. What is it that's going to be the thing that's going to help you most in your setting? And it's been done in a really masterful way in that every school is different. It has its own context, but the ideas and the resources and things you've shared throughout the book mean that it's a real what my dad used to call, and it's not just my dad's thing, but he used to love his reckoners. My dad, he'd have like his little conversion tables in his book, his little books and things, and that's what I think the Secret EdTech Diary is, Al. It's something which is great to have as a companion with you all the time. The best books that I have are ones that I buy, so I've got my hard copy, but I'll also buy on Kindle, so I can always have it on my phone, so I can always refer to it. And your Secret EdTech Diary is just one of those books, really, for me, because it's something that's so handy to have in your back pocket whenever you need to sort of pull it out and refer back to it. So it's really good in that regard. I'm not sure how much longer we've got left. We might be over time, and I might have even used all your time just by me saying stuff. So I'm going to be quiet. Just ask you, where can people get a copy of this? Where can they find out more, so forth and so on?
You can grab a copy in all good bookstores or Amazon online or elsewhere. You can also head across to alkingsley.com, and there's a page there about the book, and it's got lots of quotes and feedback from people who've just started to dip into it now. But more importantly of all, I just want to put a shout out thanks to all those people that gave up their time to share their voices, to be included in the book, and to so many people in the community that are so happy to share best practice and ideas. That's what it's all about. So a real positive. But that's the boring bit over. Obviously, I hope people will use it on a deck chair, probably not on a beach, probably in the back garden this summer, and have a read. But I'm more excited to have our next guest join us, because anything that sounds like a superhero to me has got to be a good thing. And we have got the Ivengers in the studio.
We absolutely do. Welcome, Tracy.
I've let the team down now. I've not got my cape on. I'm not wearing my mask. I apologise.
I built you up a bit too quickly there, didn't I? I do apologise. Lovely to see you.
Do you know, seriously, I do need to get a cape. The schools keep asking me. Yeah, my Wonder Woman days are not far behind me. Thank you so much for inviting me on. Two of my favourite EdTech men. It's lovely to be here with you today.
Welcome. You're very welcome, Tracy, and a long time sufferer, long time friend of myself and Al. And obviously, we know about your work and about the Ivengers, but our guests, our audience, most likely don't. So, can you share a bit about yourself and what you're doing with the Ivengers project, please?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm an online safety consultant. I've been doing online safety consultancy now for probably about 9 or 10 years. So, I feel like quite an old lady in this arena. So, I started off working with schools. So, doing staff training, that sort of thing. I now sit on things like the UKIS Council, the UK Council for Internet Safety, on one of their working groups, looking at how we can best support vulnerable young people and those with special educational needs and disabilities. I'm one of the founder members of ACOS, which is the Association of Adult and Child Online Safety Specialists. As a group, we're looking to raise up standards around online safety in the UK. And I keep saying recently, actually, I'm about a year into the project now. I've recently been given funding by the Police and Crime Commissioner for Derbyshire to work with every primary school across Derbyshire as a county and Derby City on a digital peer-led digital leader scheme, which our pilot area, Chesterfield, we had a competition. They told me that digital leaders was lame. It was a lame name, and only losers would call themselves digital leaders. So we had a competition, and they came up with the name iVengers. So we are the iVengers. Yeah.
And it's a good name. I think that's definitely a good choice. So obviously, you know, you've shared a little bit as a high level of a focus about what you've been doing, Tracy.
Yeah.
In a bit more detail, if somebody was to come along and dip into iVengers, what could they expect to find as part of the resources that you support and provide?
Okay, so as I say, it's a peer-led digital leader scheme. It's very much run by our young people. So we have a secure online portal, and within the portal we have 2 tasks that we ask. It's our year 5s and 6s that we have as honorary iVengers, and we have 2 tasks that they are to take the lead on across the school. Now, the tasks that we've written, they link in with things like keeping children safe in education, teaching online safety in school, which we know is the document that HMI are now trained around, and also the Ofsted inspection framework. That's more of a cherry for schools to buy into it. All of the tasks that we ask young people to do, it's very much about safeguarding. It's very much about keeping children safe. But it's doing it from a really, really positive perspective. None of that, don't talk to strangers. We know that that's important, but it's not about scaring children to try and get them to do the right thing. It's about empowering them and talking about the online environment in a really positive way, because it is going to offer children the most amazing, amazing opportunities. So if we can get them comfortable and happy using the online environment, rather than being frightened of it or seeing it as a scary place, but also giving them the skills and the tools that they need, so that if they do come across issues, that they know how to deal with it. So it's about positive empowerment. So we have 2 tasks each term, and when each time we finish our tasks at the end of the term, we get a bronze certificate, a silver certificate, then a gold certificate. All of our iVengers get fully trained. They also get, do you like me badges? They also get check them out. I do have special gold ones as well for schools that go over and above. So all of our iVengers, they're all trained. I'll put one in the post out. I'm going to use well, Mark. So all of our iVengers get trained. But before we start the iVengers program, we train the teachers. That is so important. We know that's one of the biggest areas for development that schools have, is around making sure that staff are up to date and they know what the risks are, why we're doing the program, why it's important, so they feel that they can effectively help and support. Now, one of the things that we found as we went through the program, we did roll it out to special schools as well, was that the resources, they're all right, but they're not fantastic. And as someone who sits on a UKIS working group looking to support vulnerable young people and those with special educational needs and disabilities, I decided that was not good enough. So I'm currently working on the iVengers special agents, just for our special schools and for vulnerable young people, where we're bringing out all of our resources in Makaton, in British Sign Language. I'm working with some amazing, amazing people, where we're breaking down the tasks so that they meet the needs of those with severe and moderate learning difficulties, right the way through to children that may have high functioning autism. So it's a bit of a big job, but do you know what? I'm definitely the superhero for it. I'm chomping at the bit. So that's what I'm working on at the moment too.
It's a really good summary and perfect timing on the clock there. So well done, Tracy, on that one there. I mean, it's fantastic, the stuff you're doing. Yeah, and obviously Mark and I are big fans of the work that you've been doing for many years. So that is a great project. And if anybody wants to find out more, get in touch with you, where's the best place to head to?
Yeah, absolutely. Twitter, I am at Online Safety Hub, or visit the iVengers website, which is www.i-vengers.org.uk. I'd love to have a conversation with anyone who wants to talk and listen.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tracy. Lovely to see you as well.
And you, always a pleasure.
Thank you,
Take
Tracy.
care. That's definitely one to check out, folks. absolutely on the list there. Now, I am in a very fortunate position here, Mr. Anderson, where I can flip the table around the other way, because I'm interested as our next guest to talk to the team from Global EdTech, or at least some of the team from Global EdTech. And surprise, surprise, we have Monsieur Anderson, who has joined us. I'm sure many will have come across Global EdTech. For those that haven't come across Global EdTech, could you give us a quick potted summary, Mark, of what Global EdTech's all about?
Yeah, absolutely, Al. Thank you for the opportunity to share about Global EdTech. Global EdTech is a project I started back at the beginning of last calendar year, with friend and long-time EdTech supporter Ronan McNichol. Ronan, formerly of schools, taught at international schools around the world, but formerly of the Jess School in Dubai. And more recently, as head of digital at Sevenoaks Prep, starting at Berkhamsted in September, working alongside the brilliant Laura Knight, supporting the school there with all their EdTech as well. Global EdTech is a website which acts to serve as an opportunity in the portal for sharing about all the best things to do with educational technology. So we've got 50 plus authors who are people from the industry, people from the classroom, people such as yourself, Buki Youssef, who we know, serving on DFE's advisory board for leading on EdTech. We got people who are really heavily involved in EdTech from around the world, coming on and writing for us and with us and sharing about their experiences, either from a vendor's perspective, but also from the classroom as well. Everyone who's involved in writing on the site has great credentials, from being either an Apple Distinguished Educator to a Google innovator to a Microsoft innovative educator expert, many of which actually have got 2 or 3 of all those badges. So we've got some fantastic authors with us. But alongside that that project, we started to organise a whole bunch of different activities to promote and support properly effective, ethical uses of technology in the classroom as well. So linked to that, we organised a conference last year called the Future of EdTech. We had 1,000 people turn up for the conference on the day, supported by a number of different companies such as NetSupport and Classroom Cloud, Frog, Iris, so forth and so on, Toot. Really great to have that support. But I'm on the show this evening to talk about some new opportunities linked to some of our activities which are going to be undertaking in the next school calendar year. And so with our 75,000 plus followers on social media, or 11,000 followers on our group on LinkedIn, so forth and so on, Global EdTech has got a really compelling offer to EdTech companies and to educators looking to learn from and with each other on our platform and through our service and solution that we provide. So that's why I'm here today, to share about those few things.
And I'm going to ask you for an extra kind of focus summary. There are 3 things that I'm aware that you've got coming up, because if you can do one thing, you might as well do 3. Typical Anderson. And they all sound really exciting. Obviously, we can't go into too much detail, but you've got a show, potentially a recognition awards type event, and also a conference. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you very much. So the first of those 3, previously you may know that I did a show called Learn Live UAE with Ollie Lewis and UK Edu Stories with Buki Youssef, who I mentioned before. So starting in September, Buki and Ronan and Ollie and myself are starting the EdTech show, which is going to be a bit like the gadget show for EdTech. Every week, 3 of us from the 4 will present and share around different products and services. And if you're an EdTech provider looking for a quality review for your product and wanting to showcase it to an audience which is worthy of your product, then please do get in touch, because we'd love to highlight your product as part of our Global EdTech show, which will be reinforced by post show on the website and all of our social media as well. The second thing is, in recognition of our global nature, we're going to be starting our own awards process in recognition of those projects, products and people that are really moving and shaking things in a really positive way in EdTech. And so launching properly at the conference, which is taking place in November, and I'll come on to that in just a moment. But we're going to be starting our Global EdTech 100. people, projects, and products, which are doing really, really well in EdTech on a global scale. And we're currently looking for sponsors to engage with us on that project. And as you'll know, our reach is extensive. So we're currently looking for partners to work with us on developing that, with a view to that launching properly, with nominations coming in January 2022. The final thing is the second Future of EdTech conference, which we're really excited to hold. The first one we were doing with dipping our toes. We had 3,000 sign-ups. We had more than 1,000 people turn up on the actual day. And we're going to go all out this time. We're going to be going for a 2-day conference taking place in November. And again, we're currently looking for platinum, gold, and silver sponsors for that event. All these things are available to learn more about on a rate card. If you'd like to find out more, you can please just get in touch with myself or visit globaledtech.com, global-edtech.com.
Has somebody pulled the plug out for you there, Mr. Anderson?
Company. If you're an EdTech company and you're keen on getting involved in any or all of those projects, we'd love to hear from you to talk to you about our engagement with the activities that we're doing. That would be fantastic.
Thank you, Mark. I think as elevator pitches go, you were clearly on the Burj Khalifa when you were doing that pitch. but well done for making the most out of it. And I have to say, it's really exciting projects. So definitely, I think educators or vendors definitely want to get involved in. Let's move on to something completely different as next guest on the list. I believe we've now got James from Pickertail.
Hello.
Yeah, welcome, James. Hi.
Hi,
James.
how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to the show. Lovely to have you join us.
Thank you very much. I'm in a sweltering Oslo in Norway, our head office at the moment. So it's a sort of a busman's holiday. I'm obviously from the UK, but I'm over at the head office and it's very, very hot.
Well, we've actually lost a bit of the heat this week in the UK, so you've probably taken it north with you.
Exactly. Oh, don't worry. I'll bring it back with me, Al. You'll be fine.
Good. Make sure you do. So listen, the name kind of poses lots of questions. What's it all about? For those listening in this evening, Pickertail, tell us more.
Yeah, so Pickertail, well, basically, first and foremost, it's all about reading. I mean, we know that it's the number one thing. All good educational outcomes come from the ability to be able to read. So we're all really focusing on that in EdTech. And so Pickertail is a free reading app for schools. And on the app, you have hundreds of books which are arranged by subjects and by levels. So it's for kids, that start off in reception and then go all the way up to the end of school at 11 before they go off to secondary school. There's hundreds of books. All of the books have narration so that kids can listen to the book being read to them, so it boosts that confidence and helps them to identify words. Each book has a kind of a karaoke function, so that the words light up as the word is spoken. So again, that's really useful in vocab acquisition. There are really fun quizzes at the end of the books, which reinforces learning. And then probably the biggest innovation that we've got, which we've come out with recently, is our teacher dashboard, which allows teachers to assign reading homework to children and then track their progress. And obviously they can see how far they've got in the book, whether they read the book, and then they can also see what kinds of books that the children like. So all of these things make the whole experience really fun for the kids, and makes it really super accessible for them. I can say a little bit about the kinds of books that we have on the Pickertail app. So we have a lot of fiction, we have a lot of non-fiction, we have poetry, we have books about pirates and sharks and spiders and snakes and that kind of thing. But we've also got all the classic fairy tales and other types of stories which kids are going to love. Plus, we've got books about all the planets. I mean, anything that you like to read about at school, you'll find a book about it on Pickertail. And again, it's important to underline this is a free service for schools. So school leaders or teachers just have to go to pickertail.co.uk, sign up for the service, and then they can start uploading their classes and really just get cracking on with the reading. Super easy to use, really intuitive, and the feedback that we have has been fantastic in the UK. Everybody thinks it's a really fun service, but also obviously there's a serious part of it, which is that it really gets children reading, and the data that we have, the analysis that we have, shows that kids really like reading books on Pickertail.
James, let me just jump in. One thing I was going to ask you is, and I have to confess, I've had a look, and I think it's a really, really impressive solution and portfolio that you folks are offering. One thing that stood out, which may come under the category of differentiator, was you had different versions of the same story depending on ability acquisition.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could share a bit more, because I really like the way that you were delivering on that.
Yeah, definitely. And Al, I'm really glad that you pointed that out, because that really is a super important thing. So really, it's obviously you're going to have in the classroom, there are going to be kids at different reading levels. And just say the teacher would like the kids to read Little Red Riding Hood, and you have let's say Mohammed is a really good reader, but then you have Jimmy who's not so good, and then you have Amelia who's a little slightly at a lower level. But they can all read the same book, because we've created the same book but at slightly different levels, so they can all get the same experience. They can all talk about the story in general, but each child is reading a slightly different version of the book. And that's really what keeps the interest up, because obviously if Mohammed was reading a much lower level version of Little Red Riding Hood, he might get a little bit bored. But in the version he's reading, there's a lot more information, there's a lot more text. So it's really inclusive. It makes sure that all the kids are really, feel like they're, on the same level as their friends, but they're just reading a slightly different level book.
That's a really lovely feature, that is, James, and it's so important to sort of capture that, because literacy is so important. It's a cornerstone, like numeracy is a cornerstone of being able to engage actively in life, isn't it? That's fantastic. One of our questions, I mean, you've kind of nailed it with that, really, but were there any other sort of USPs related to Pickertail that you think would be of interest to our audience and might be a compelling reason for them, that if they're not already compelled to try it out anyway?
Well, just
wanted to share.
Yeah, no, just a couple of quick things, Mark. So basically, obviously, it's the fact that it's free, and that's brilliant. And we know that, about the economics of schools, and the fact that, a great service like this, the fact that it's free makes it a real winner. The narration and the karaoke are really great, because the kids find it really fun, and the quizzes, they reinforce the learning. So the whole experience of reading it really brings it to life. And I also, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind just plugging the fact that we also have a Pickertail app for families. So Pickertail for Schools is the free app which schools can download and they can use it for free. But then we have a families app which parents can download from the App Store, and that's a service where the kids can then keep on reading once they get home, because once they've got that love of reading, you do not want to stop them from carrying on reading as many books as possible.
Brilliant. I have to say it's a great solution, and for schools, obviously, the first thing we always have to say is there's no cost, so why wouldn't you check it out? And that's, having seen the breadth of content, I think it's definitely one to put on the radar for all school leaders. So I'm very grateful that you came and joined us this evening, James. If people want to find out more, where do they need to head to?
So head to pickertail.co.uk, and then click on schools. We've got some campaigns going for schools, which for multi-academy trusts that have got kids that are have English as a second language. So we've got some really interesting campaigns. So yeah, pickertail.co.uk, click on schools, sign up, and you won't regret it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Fantastic stuff. That's really good, isn't it? Really, really good. Who's up next? Emily Evans from The Economist Educational Foundation. Welcome to the show, Emily. How are you doing?
Hi, good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Hi, Emily. Welcome to the show.
You're very welcome.
So, I was going to, well, you go ahead, Mark. I'll be.
I was going to say, you go ahead, Al. That's what I was going to say.
We're both being too polite, Emily, so I'm just going to dive in. Thank you for joining us. Tell us about the Economist Educational Foundation.
Thank you. So yeah, I am here to talk about our program, which is called Topical Talk, and it gives teachers two things. I'm going to start by telling you about the first thing. So the first thing are really high quality teaching resources, which are completely free to allow you to talk to your students about issues in the news. and that has never been more important. So it's really great to have the chance to talk to everyone about it today. And Topical Talk comes from the Economist Educational Foundation, as you said, which is a charity that I set up from inside the Economist newspaper. So what that means is all the resources are created by our team of expert teachers, but together with world-class journalists and fact checkers and subject specialists and senior editors at The Economist. So teachers really trust our resources, and they can feel confident when they're talking to their students using our resources about sensitive or complex issues in the news, but which are really important for their students to understand. And these discussions are massively rewarding to have with your kids. That's the feedback that we get a lot of the time from teachers. And the resources are designed to build teachers' confidence and skills in facilitating these discussions over time. We produce a different resource on a different news story every week. Or if you want, we've got ones that cover the same story over 5 weeks. You can pick which you want. But the most important thing to emphasize is that all of the resources are designed to have creative and lively activities that build students' critical thinking skills and communication skills and allow them to combine that with knowledge of the news. And that is just massively, massively important, because what we talk about is that set of critical thinking and communication skills and knowledge about the news, that is the attributes that you need to succeed in the modern world. So in the digital age, you have to be able to tackle misinformation. You have to be able to have conversations with people who see things differently to you. The future of work will require students to have these skills and to combine them with knowledge of the news. And if you want your students to be active citizens who understand issues from climate change to inequality that are going to massively affect their lives, they have to have these skills and this knowledge. So whether your concern is news literacy or citizenship or employability, Topical Talk's really important. So I want to say about the second thing, but shall I stop and let you ask me a question, because I'm already halfway through my time?
I would crack on if I was you. Yeah, go for it.
So the resources, it's good to start with those because they're completely free and anyone can use them, and it explains what the program's about. But the other really awesome and unique bit about Topical Talk is the online student hub. So this is the EdTech bit. So the hub is genuinely unique, and what students do there is they can join discussions with other young people all over the world. So from Bangladesh to Palestine to Zimbabwe to Germany. It covers the same issues as your resources. So if you want to combine accounts for your kids on the hub with using our resources to talk about this stuff in your classroom, you can. Or you can just give kids accounts on the hub. So they talk to other students, and these discussions are facilitated by our expert teachers. So they get really great feedback focused on developing their skills and their thinking. But they also get to engage with leading experts on these issues. So genuinely the top global experts on these things. And so that might be politicians, business leaders, or it might be polar explorers or astronauts or Stephen Fry. So yeah, it's kind of gamified. So the students get stars when they demonstrate great critical thinking or great communication skills, and they get really competitive. We have an awards ceremony at the end of the year for the schools that have made the most progress on the website. So when that was in real life, it has been at Buckingham Palace. We're doing it virtually at the moment. So so those are the two aspects of Topical Talk. And there's loads more that I could say about it, but I realise I've probably already taken quite a big chunk of my 5 minutes.
No, that sounds fantastic. As somebody who's a business and economics teacher by trade as well, Emily, it's of massive interest and really, really important topics. And children do need these skills like you just mentioned and things as well. But leading on to some of the other questions we would normally ask, what makes it different to any other solutions that allow for these sorts of development of these sorts of skills in our young people in schools?
We are really rigorous about measuring our impact. So I think that's one thing that makes it a bit different. So we can show that young people who take part in these discussions regularly over a school year make 150% more progress in critical thinking and communication skills compared to their peers. And we use the skills builder framework, which I think is amazing. So so we can demonstrate that this works. And as I say, it's created by genuinely top experts on the topics, which when you're talking about these kinds of issues is really important. It also, the site, I think, is unique in bringing together so many young people from so many different places, but to have a really high quality discussion. So, you know, other social media platforms, as we know, are not doing this well. But to have a teacher facilitated conversation with people who have really different experiences to you is really powerful. And the level of experts that we bring into those discussions is genuinely special as well.
I think it's really resonates. I mean, you touched on it during your summary there, but something that both Mark and I have talked about as part of planning on a digital strategy is about developing students' digital skills, their digital citizenship, their ability to challenge the validity and the tools and skills to research and understand the authenticity of information, and all the elements that you've covered there, Emily. I think are never more than now are really key to be providing for our young people. So it sounds a fantastic resource and very timely. I suppose most importantly, how do we go about making sure that every school knows about your resources? So where do we need to direct them?
So you can go to our website, which is economistfoundation.org, as seen below. That's the best place to go, or follow us at econ_foundation. You'll be able to find everything about the program there, and our team are great. They'll answer any questions that you have. And it's, the first thing to do is sign up for the resources. They're completely free and they're amazing. And you'll see everything about the hub on the site as well. But just, get started using the resources and tell us what you think.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Emily. Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
I saw your little eyes light up when we thought business studies. As a business studies teacher, Mr. Anderson, you are right there. And also, it's nice. We've got some lovely free resources this evening. Yeah,
brilliant stuff from that and Pickertail as well. Really good. It's fantastic stuff to see. And you know me, financial literacy is so important, and literacy in itself is massively important as well. Stuff from Teach Active right from the outset as well. Really useful. So some fantastic guests on this evening. But we started off with a long-standing friend, and we're moving on to another friend now, I believe.
We are. Shall I introduce our next guest?
Absolutely.
Somebody that we've worked with for many years, and a very trusted group. So it is Ben Whitaker from the ANME, and I will leave Ben to explain who the ANME are in a second. But good evening, sir. Good to see you.
Good evening, Mark and Al. Thanks very much for having us on, or having me on.
Pleasure. Lovely to see you. Would you mind kicking off with a bit of a summary about who the ANME are, Ben?
Yes, so the ANME are the Association of Network Managers in Education, and me and another network manager, Rick Cowell, created the group back in 2014. Originally, we used to have termly meetings within the local authority, but they decided that they didn't want to run them anymore. It was a great tool and a great way to network with sort of other network managers, share ideas, swap stories. And we felt that was really lacking. So we started doing it within our own schools unofficially, just a few close contacts we'd got. And I think we initially started off with about 5 to 8 people, and it started to scale up to about 20. We thought, this is, we're onto something here. People really want this. They want that face-to-face. They want to sort of swap stories, get ideas. So we started to put it on an official footing. I think like one of your other speakers said about trying to come up with a name, I think we're sat in a pub in Preston, sort of floating a few ideas of names and things like that. And we decided on the ANME. And it's not just network managers, it's any IT professional working in education we sort of represent. And the aim is to sort of bring them together and network, listen to industry leading speakers. I know, Al, you've been up a few times and spoke on various subjects. And obviously we also have members that speak as well, which is great. We've had people on Google, on SharePoint. I've done a few sessions on things I've come across in my working life that I think will help, and also to start a conversation as well and get people involved. And it was going really well with the face-to-face meetings. We've got them all throughout the country, South, Southwest, East Midlands, West Midlands, and obviously the showpiece event in the Northwest. But obviously at the moment, unfortunately, we're not yet back doing face-to-face, which I know from sort of emails I've been getting. I think people are keen to start getting back and catching up with sort of colleagues and friends and seeing how everyone's getting on. So yeah, that in a nutshell, that's the ANME. And I must admit as well, you know, we're not selling anything. It's free to attend. It's free to sign up as well. Someone did say that we do provide a good lunch, and it is a free lunch. You know, some people say there's no such thing as a free lunch, but the ANME do provide a free lunch.
I think it's great, the stuff that you do, Ben, and you're right. I've been to many an event with the ANME. I think it's also nice at this juncture. We've spent rightly the last couple of years really focusing on the pressures and the pace of change and often the narrative is around for teaching and learning. But I think people also need to kind of pause and reflect on the pace of change that's been behind the scenes for the infrastructure and the delivery of all that digital and technology. And the ANME to me is that perfect resource where no matter what project someone might be thinking about implementing, there'll be somebody else in the group who's been there, done that. And that kind of repository of experience is priceless, frankly.
It is, and that's what we're about. You know, we've done little breakout sessions where we've had members speak about SharePoint. And I know now in my school, from that breakout session, we introduced and rolled out SharePoint 3 years ago. And I know lots of other schools that are sort of having that discussion, and that's what it's about. I don't think if we'd have had that, we'd have necessarily gone down that route. So yeah, it's ultimately about sharing experiences, sharing ideas, you know, common issues and things like that. And also, like I said, we also have suppliers, like I said, NetSupport have been up there and a great support as the ANME, and you know, we thank you for that. And you know, it's about them also. Network managers getting exposure to things, technologies that they may not have even considered. You know, a number of sort of conversations and emails we've had after the event saying, "Oh, that was a great sort of vendor you brought." You know, we weren't really thinking about that, but it's you know, it started a discussion in school as well, and that's ultimately what it's about: discussion, catching up, chatting, starting that conversation. And like you said as well, you know, IT professionals. As I say to my team, you know, we've come out of the shadows. You know, we've started to play a really important role. Like your two fantastic digital strategy that you write. You know, we've started to lead that sort of way forward. We're setting the agenda. You know, and that's working in partnership with the academic. But I think that's good as well. So yeah. Like I said, it's free to join, and I've got 20 seconds. If you go to anme.co.uk, and in the top right or top left, whichever way, you can click join. You fill in a few details, just give us what school you're at. And like you said, hopefully in the autumn term, fingers crossed, with no more restrictions, we'll try and get some face-to-face meetings set up. If not, hopefully we're at BET in 2022. So hopefully we'll be able to see and catch up with colleagues down there.
Brilliant stuff, Ben. And you know, the network is obviously far more powerful than the node, to use a sort of computing sort of term reference there. But you know, it's great to see how you've been able to bring everyone together and share, like I said, our repository, that back catalogue of experience to share to ultimately help more children, you know, at the chalk face, and more teachers in the classroom as well. So brilliant stuff. Thanks for coming and joining us tonight, Ben, and look forward to seeing you in January, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
The one thing I will say about the ANME, having met with many of them over the years, is it's not about the technical. They're just a really good group of people. It's a really collaborative, you know, network, as we talked about. But people are very receptive, open, and it's a really nice group. So I think if you have a role with managing the technology in your school, absolutely. Why wouldn't you join up to that repository? And if you don't have a role, then do the person that does a favor and share them this link to this video or to this presentation tonight, and make sure they join up, because again, you've got nothing to lose. And I love the fact we've got loads of free resources this evening, and we all like that given the current landscape. So brilliant.
Absolutely. So who's up next? And I think it's our final guest on the show this evening.
It is, and it seems like a really good one to round off this evening's conversation. Very pleased to have Mary joining us from TeachStream.
I think it's Marty.
Marty. Well, that just goes for my reading. How are you, Mary? I better rephrase that, Marty. Now, lovely to see you. My apologies.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on your show.
Welcome, Marty.
So, Marty, tell us all about TeachStream.
Yes, so TeachStream is a classroom streaming solution, which we started in early 2020 when we kind of identified that existing meeting platforms used by schools didn't solve certain safeguarding requirements. And we heard this back from our local secondary schools. And the schools were very concerned about kind of a possible upcoming pandemic, hearing it in the news. And they didn't have a solution for throwing kind of 30 or 200 students into a Google Meet or Google Teams and hoping everything would go well. And in fact, I'm sure many schools kind of tried that at the time, and it didn't go well. So we developed TeachStream to kind of fill this gap and to enable the teachers of the schools to deliver live classrooms remotely and, most importantly, safely. Since then, TeachStream has grown based on feature requests and feedback by working closely with our schools, mainly in West Sussex, and now has recording, simple controls around lesson discussion and audio, such as easily blocking and muting students with just a simple click, and reporting for lesson attendance. And kind of part of that is visualizing when students join and leave a lesson. We found that some students join at the start, leave, go off and play some PlayStation and come back to say goodbye. And really this feature kind of helped teachers visualize the engagement of students and possible issues they might need to address. And additionally, we have simple integrations to kind of upload the lesson you've just taught to your LMS solutions. So if you're using Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom.
Brilliant.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Marty. So what makes your solution different from others? Because you mentioned Teams, for example. You can video conference in Teams, you can see your students. What makes you different to Teams, let's say, for example?
Yeah, that's quite a common comparison. And kind of one of the core pillars that TeachStream was built around is simplicity. It's very easy kind of for the other platforms. There's so many options for teachers, and it can be quite overwhelming. And there's kind of a little story that when I was around 14, I developed a homework tracking platform, and that was kind of used across multiple schools across West Sussex for around 10 years. And it was really a great experience to drill home how simple educational platforms need to be to kind of drive the adoption and usage, and ultimately to have happy customers, happy students, happy staff. And I found that if you kind of add too many features and buttons or make it cluttered, it can easily become overwhelming and confusing for the majority of users. So we really wanted TeachStream to be super easy for teachers to use, to minimize the required training for both students and teachers, and that was especially important during the pandemic. And we also wanted to make sure teachers could set up lessons easily while keeping everyone in the lesson safe. So as a result, the platform by default has one-way video, so it's only teacher to student, and permission-based audio. So the teacher can request the student's microphone, but the student has to explicitly accept, and then they can partake in the lesson. So it really keeps the teacher in control and protects the student's privacy.
That's really good. It's important to have those kind of differentiators. And I'm certainly an advocate as well, Marty, in terms of simplicity and ease of use. That building confidence, something Mark often talks about, is really important to successful adoption. It's not who's got the most features that always wins the race. We always like to ask about how a solution best serves or supports its audience. Are there any kind of key bits of feedback or what you tend to hear from schools that you want to share as part of that kind of question?
Yeah, so in terms of audience, there was clearly the kind of for major lockdowns, and we had tens of thousands of users a day kind of using the platform during those times. And at the end of last term, we again saw an increase where more and more students were being isolated. And that was more of kind of a blended teaching approach, where the teacher could easily set up a laptop or an iPad just in front of them and could teach half a class in the lesson and also teach half a class at home. But there's been some other usages of the platform as well, such as lesson observations. So teachers using it to easily make recordings of the lesson, and then kind of saving the financial cost of kind of having a cover teacher cover a line manager for a week, for example. And we've had schools use the platform for parent meetings and induction days. So there's no software downloads, it just loads up in your browser, and you could have year 6 onboarded to do a speech or something like that. And there's also after school home time intervention, so students going home, having a snack, and then logging in to learn some more.
Fantastic.
So, Marty, if you want to learn more about TeachStream, how can they find out more? Where can they go to, and your social media and all that sort of stuff? Where can they go?
Yeah, so probably the best place to go is teachstream.co.uk, and then we're also on Twitter at TeachStream.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. Well, all the very best for the future with TeachStream, and thank you so much for joining us on our 10th episode of the Check It Out Show. Thank you so much, Marty.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Take care.
Marty. Thank you. Wow. I can't believe it. 10 episodes done.
Wow.
Brilliant stuff.
To think we were starting, look, I'm wiping my eyes from the sweat and the exhaustion of all that conversation. But to think this academic year we were talking, Mark, about let's do an episode and provide a platform for some new solutions, and where we've ended up, it's been a pretty amazing school year for many different reasons, hasn't it? And the quality and breadth of solutions. At the beginning, I was joking about the better words, but that along with lots of other things, really reflects on just the breadth of innovation there is across the education solutions in the UK, and beyond, of course, but particularly in the UK. And I think it's something we should really take pride in, alongside, the efforts of all of our educators the last year, who absolutely we take pride in.
That's it. I forget the name of I couldn't attend for health reasons, as you know, the awards last week. But I did read one tweet which was a quote from the comedian who was sort of comparing, and obviously context is important with comedy. So I'm not trying to tell a joke here. I'm just sort of reciting what I'd read from the quote from the guy's sort of speech and things. But he said something along the lines of, clearly I'm in a room full of failed teachers. Well, when we look at the level and scale of innovation and the amount of work that winners or sort of nominated, finalists, shortlisted people in all those different categories, we have here in the UK a strong tradition of superb educational technology and other services into education. And I think, if we can spend a bit of time highlighting and drawing a spotlight onto some of those on this show, certainly in the instance where we don't get the opportunity to go out and see and learn so much about these sort of things through things like trade fairs and conferences and events as well, I think we're doing a great job, regardless of whether somebody's got a badge next to their name or not. So I'm really proud of what we've been able to put together, and I'm looking forward to more episodes of the Check It Out Show, Al.
Absolutely. And I believe I know we have a show lined up for September. We're having August off, having a little chance to reflect, and probably if we didn't, there wouldn't be too many people tuning in. So our next show, as if by magic, is the 28th of September. And as always, anybody's got any new solutions or new services they're perhaps thinking of launching, ready for the new academic year, then head over there, fill in a quick form, and one of the team will be in contact with you. And we'd love to have more fresh solutions and other innovative ideas come and join the narrative. And I think it's really important to stress there's two things that make our sector from an EdTech point of view successful. One of those innovative products and solutions that were being created, and the second are the people offering the services and support to make sure we can get the most out of them. And I think it's the combination of the two that we invite as guests to come on and talk, not just about products, but services and innovative ways to deliver training or deliver teaching and learning. So please don't think it's a product or nothing type approach.
Absolutely. Well, with that in mind then, Al, I'll see you before the 28th of September, obviously, but...
I see you first.
But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to all of our regular viewers like Dave and Becky, and look forward to you joining us again in the next academic year on the 28th of September. But for now, please be safe out there, look after yourself, rest up, and enjoy your summer break, and we'll look forward to seeing you next academic year. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care, folks.